Most people believe readiness comes first, then action follows. That sequence feels logical, safe, responsible, but what if it's completely backwards? What if the feeling of being ready is not the starting point at all, but the result of movement? The brain doesn't reward preparation the way it rewards progress. Planning feels productive, but neurologically it produces very little evidence. The brain waits for proof. And until it sees proof through action, it withholds confidence, clarity, and motivation. Not to punish you, but to protect you from uncertainty. That's why you can research, plan, and mentally rehearse for months and still feel unprepared. Readiness isn't missing. It simply hasn't been earned yet. It's not a signal that tells you to begin. It's a response that appears after repetition, after exposure, after discomfort. Improvement doesn't start when fear disappears. It starts when you act while fear is still present. The brain learns through movement. Each small action sends a message. This is survivable. This is manageable. Over time, uncertainty becomes familiar. Resistance softens. And what you once called not ready slowly transforms into quiet confidence. This is why waiting rarely works. The feeling you're waiting for is built on the other side of action. Confidence is not a requirement for improvement, it's the reward. As you listen, notice which part of this challenges what you've been postponing. And if this perspective sparks curiosity, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share, because someone else may still be waiting for permission that never arrives. Chapter 1. The myth of readiness. You have been taught quietly and consistently to wait. Wait until you feel confident. Wait until you feel prepared. Wait until the timing is right. Wait until the fear is gone. Wait until you are ready. This belief has been reinforced by culture, by school, by the stories of success that skip the uncomfortable beginning and jump straight to the polished result. And because of that, millions of capable people stand still, mistaking hesitation for wisdom and comfort for safety. Readiness feels responsible. It sounds mature. It looks like patience. But most of the time, it is just fear wearing a convincing disguise. Improvement rarely begins with confidence. It begins with friction. It begins with awkwardness. It begins with uncertainty. It begins with the unsettling realization that staying the same is more painful than stepping forward unprepared. Growth does not wait for permission. It responds to motion. Think of a child learning to walk. There is no moment where the child wakes up and decides they are ready. There is wobbling. There is falling. There is reaching for the edge of a table. There is fear and curiosity colliding. Walking emerges not because readiness arrives, but because trying continues. The body adapts to the demand placed upon it. The mind follows. Adults forget this. Adults wait for a feeling that never comes. Readiness is not a prerequisite for progress. Readiness is a byproduct of progress. Confidence is built after the step, not before it. Clarity comes from movement, not contemplation. Strength is revealed in effort, not anticipation. There is a powerful illusion that keeps people stuck. The belief that starting unready will permanently damage their chances. That a flawed first attempt will define them. That visible struggle equals failure. But every skill, every discipline, every transformation passes through an ugly phase. The difference between those who improve and those who stay stuck is not talent or intelligence. It is tolerance for that phase. Consider the first time someone lifts a weight they cannot yet control. Their muscles shake. Their form breaks down. They feel exposed. But the body interprets that strain as a signal to grow stronger. If the weight were light enough to feel comfortable, there would be no adaptation. Comfort never builds capacity. The same rule applies to your work, your habits, your confidence, your voice. Improvement requires entering environments where your current ability is insufficient. That insufficiency is not a flaw. It is the signal that growth is possible. Many people wait for motivation to arrive before they act. They believe motivation is a resource that appears first and fuels effort. In reality, motivation is a response to progress. Action generates momentum. Momentum generates motivation. The sequence matters. There are people who look fearless from the outside. What you rarely see is that they are simply practiced at acting while afraid. Fear does not disappear when you move forward. It quiets when it realizes it is no longer in control. The mind resists discomfort because discomfort threatens identity. Starting something new forces you to confront the gap between who you are and who you want to be. That gap is uncomfortable. It exposes inexperience. It challenges ego. The mind would rather keep you consistent than capable, so it creates stories. You need more time, you need more research, you need more money, you need more validation, you need to feel ready. These stories feel logical, but they serve one function: delay. Delay feels safe. Delay feels productive. Delay feels like progress without risk. But delay is often just stagnation with a schedule. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now, let's continue. There is a moment that defines improvement. It is not the moment of mastery. It is not the moment of recognition. It is the moment you decide to act without reassurance. The moment you accept being seen as a beginner. The moment you choose movement over certainty. Think of someone who wants to speak confidently in front of others. They imagine a future version of themselves who is calm, articulate, commanding. They wait for that version to arrive before they speak up. But that version only exists because of countless uncomfortable moments of speaking before they felt capable. Silence does not produce confidence. Expression does. Or consider someone who wants to change their body. They wait until they have the perfect plan, the perfect schedule, the perfect motivation. Meanwhile, weeks turn into months. The body does not change through planning. It changes through repeated exposure to effort. Small, imperfect actions performed consistently outperform perfect plans that never begin. Improvement is not a dramatic leap. It is a series of small, often embarrassing steps taken before you feel qualified. Each step teaches you something no amount of thinking can. Each step reshapes your identity. Identity is not something you discover. It is something you practice. You become the kind of person who acts by acting. You become disciplined by doing disciplined things while resisting the urge to quit. You become confident by keeping promises to yourself when no one is watching. Readiness culture teaches you to protect your self-image. Growth demands you risk it. There is freedom in letting go of the need to feel ready. When you stop waiting for internal alignment, you gain external leverage. You stop negotiating with emotions and start building evidence. Evidence is powerful. Evidence silences doubt. Each action taken without readiness becomes proof. Proof that you can survive discomfort. Proof that mistakes are not fatal. Proof that momentum is available to you now. The world does not reward potential. It responds to execution, not perfect execution, not fearless execution, just execution. You will never eliminate uncertainty. You will only increase your capacity to operate within it. That capacity is built the same way muscle is built, through resistance, through showing up when it would be easier not to, through starting before you feel prepared. Imagine looking back months from now, not at a version of yourself who waited patiently, but at one who moved clumsily forward, one who learned by doing, one who gained clarity through contact with reality. That version is not special. That version simply stopped requiring readiness as a condition. The beginning will not feel like transformation. It will feel like confusion. It will feel like effort. It will feel like doubt. That is how you know it is working. Improvement begins the moment you stop asking whether you are ready and start acting as if readiness is optional. Chapter 2. Action before confidence. Confidence has been misunderstood. It has been framed as a feeling you must possess before you move, rather than a result you earn after you act. This misunderstanding quietly sabotages progress. It convinces capable people to wait for an internal signal that was never meant to lead. Confidence is not a green light. It is a receipt. Every meaningful skill you admire in others was built in moments where confidence was absent. The calm speaker once trembled. The disciplined athlete once skipped workouts. The decisive leader once hesitated. What separates them is not that they felt ready sooner. It is that they acted sooner. Action is the only thing that can challenge doubt. Thought cannot defeat doubt because doubt lives in thought. Planning cannot defeat doubt because doubt hides inside plans. Only action introduces reality, and reality is the enemy of imagined fear. When someone says they lack confidence, what they are often saying is that they lack evidence. Evidence comes from doing the thing repeatedly and surviving the outcome. Confidence grows when the nervous system learns that discomfort does not equal danger. That lesson cannot be learned intellectually. It must be experienced. Picture someone standing at the edge of a cold lake. They analyze the temperature. They imagine the shock. They wait for courage to arrive. The longer they wait, the colder it feels. The mind magnifies the discomfort. But the moment they step in, the body adapts. Breathing stabilizes, muscles adjust. The fear dissolves into sensation. Action resolves what anticipation exaggerates. The same mechanism governs improvement. Before action, fear is abstract and infinite. After action, fear becomes specific and manageable. The unknown becomes known. The mind relaxes when it understands the terrain. Many people attempt to build confidence through affirmation. They tell themselves they are capable. They repeat positive statements, but without action, those words feel hollow. The mind does not accept reassurance without proof. Confidence that is not backed by behavior collapses under pressure. True confidence is quiet. It is not bravado. It is familiarity. It comes from repetition. It comes from having been there before. Consider someone learning to drive. At first, every movement is conscious. Hands grip the wheel. Eyes dart between mirrors. Anxiety spikes. With time and exposure, those same movements become automatic. Confidence appears not because fear was addressed directly, but because action became routine. This is why starting before confidence matters. The early phase of improvement is not about performance. It is about exposure. Exposure teaches the nervous system that the environment is survivable, that mistakes are correctable, that progress is possible. There is a cost to waiting for confidence. Each delay reinforces avoidance. Each avoidance strengthens fear. The mind learns that hesitation equals safety. Over time, the threshold for action rises. Things that once felt manageable begin to feel overwhelming. Action, even imperfect action, reverses this process. It teaches the mind that movement is safe. It lowers resistance. It builds tolerance. There is also a deeper shift that occurs when action leads. Identity begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is preparing and start seeing yourself as someone who is doing. This identity shift is powerful. Behavior follows identity, and identity follows behavior. People often believe they need to believe in themselves before they act. In reality, they need to act before belief has a chance to form. Belief is not a requirement. Commitment is. Commitment is the decision to move regardless of emotional weather. It is the refusal to negotiate with fear. It is the choice to let action lead and emotion follow. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now, let's continue. Think of a time when action surprised you. A moment when you did something despite doubt, and afterward realized it was not as catastrophic as imagined. That realization did not come from thinking differently. It came from doing differently. The brain updates its predictions based on outcomes. When outcomes contradict fear, fear loses authority. Each action taken without confidence rewires expectation. This is why small actions matter. They are not small to the nervous system. Each one is a data point. Each one is a vote for capability. Consistent, imperfect action builds a body of evidence that confidence can stand on. There is a temptation to wait for a dramatic surge of courage, but courage is not a surge. It is a habit. It is built through repeated choices to move forward while unsure. People who improve quickly are not immune to fear. They are simply less impressed by it. They have learned that fear is a sensation, not a directive. It can be present without being obeyed. Action before confidence also creates clarity. Many people feel stuck because they are trying to think their way into certainty. They want guarantees. They want the correct path revealed before they step, but clarity is not a prerequisite for movement. It is a reward for movement. Paths reveal themselves through travel. Skills reveal themselves through use. Direction sharpens through correction. Imagine trying to learn balance without standing up. No amount of theory can substitute for the act itself. Balance is felt, not explained. Improvement is lived, not imagined. When you act without confidence, you discover your actual limits rather than your imagined ones. Imagined limits are almost always smaller. Reality is often more forgiving than fear predicts. This does not mean recklessness, it means responsiveness. It means adjusting based on feedback rather than fantasy. Action creates feedback. Feedback creates refinement. Refinement creates confidence. There is also dignity in effort. Even when results are not immediate, action affirms self-respect. It sends a signal that growth matters more than comfort. That signal compounds. Over time, something subtle but powerful happens. The question shifts. It is no longer whether you feel confident enough to act. It becomes whether you are willing to tolerate the temporary discomfort of growth. That is a question with a different answer. Confidence built this way is durable. It does not disappear when conditions change. It does not depend on praise. It is rooted in lived experience. People often search for the moment they will finally feel like the kind of person who can do the thing. That moment rarely arrives beforehand. It arrives afterward quietly as a realization. Confidence is not found at the starting line. It is picked up along the way. And when action leads, fear follows at a distance rather than standing in front. The path does not become easy, but it becomes navigable. Movement replaces paralysis. Progress replaces speculation. The decision to act before confidence is not a personality trait. It is a practice, one that can be repeated today, tomorrow, and the day after. What changes when action becomes the priority rather than the feeling? What becomes possible when confidence is allowed to lag behind instead of lead? What kind of person is shaped by choosing movement over reassurance, again and again? Chapter 3. Using discomfort as a compass. Discomfort is often treated as a warning sign, something to avoid, something that signals you are doing the wrong thing. But for anyone who intends to improve without waiting to feel ready, discomfort must be reinterpreted. Discomfort is not an alarm, it is a direction. Every meaningful upgrade to your life will ask you to step into sensations you would rather avoid: awkwardness, uncertainty, mental strain, physical fatigue, emotional exposure. These are not side effects of growth. They are indicators of it. When comfort dominates, stagnation is close behind. The problem is not that discomfort exists. The problem is that it has been misclassified. You were taught that feeling uncomfortable means something is wrong, that ease equals alignment, that resistance equals danger. This belief trains you to retreat at the exact moment progress becomes available. Think of a muscle under tension. The burn is not damage. It is information. It tells you the muscle is being challenged beyond its current capacity. Without that sensation, there is no signal for adaptation. The body does not grow stronger in comfort. It grows stronger in response to controlled stress. The same principle governs skill, confidence, discipline, and identity. Psychological discomfort is the nervous system encountering a new demand. It is the mind adjusting to unfamiliar territory. It feels unpleasant because it is unfamiliar, not because it is harmful. Most people treat discomfort like a wall. They stop when they feel it. Those who improve learn to treat it like a signpost. They notice it and move toward it deliberately. This does not mean seeking chaos or overwhelming yourself. It means recognizing the specific discomfort that accompanies meaningful effort. The discomfort of showing up when you would rather withdraw. The discomfort of being seen before you feel polished. The discomfort of trying something where success is uncertain. There is a distinct difference between pain that injures and discomfort that strengthens. One drains you. The other expands you. Learning to tell the difference is a skill, and it is learned through experience, not theory. Avoidance feels relieving in the short term. It reduces anxiety. It restores a sense of control, but relief is temporary. The avoided task grows heavier in the mind. The discomfort compounds. What you resist persists. Approach works differently. The first step into discomfort spikes anxiety, but then something changes. The spike peaks and falls. The nervous system recalibrates. What once felt threatening becomes tolerable, then familiar, then manageable. This is exposure. It is how fear is reduced, not through avoidance, but through contact. Consider someone who avoids difficult conversations. Each time they avoid one, they feel relief. But over time, their confidence erodes. The conversations loom larger. Their sense of agency shrinks. When they finally engage, the discomfort is intense, not because the conversation is inherently dangerous, but because avoidance has trained fear to grow unchecked. Now consider the opposite. Someone who initiates difficult conversations regularly does not enjoy them, but they are no longer paralyzed by them. Discomfort becomes a known quantity. The compass points forward instead of backward. Improvement accelerates when you begin asking a different question. Not how do I feel about this, but what is this discomfort pointing me toward? Often, it points directly at the skill, habit, or decision you need most. Procrastination is rarely about laziness. It is about emotional avoidance. You delay not because the task is hard, but because of how you expect it to make you feel. The discomfort is anticipated, exaggerated, and treated as a reason to stop. But anticipation is unreliable. The imagined discomfort is almost always worse than the real thing. Once you begin, the mind shifts from anticipation to execution. The emotional load drops, momentum takes over. Discomfort also reveals priorities. What you are willing to endure discomfort for tells the truth about what matters to you. Growth demands trade-offs. You cannot avoid all discomfort. You can only choose which kind you will live with. There is the discomfort of effort or the discomfort of regret, the discomfort of discipline or the discomfort of stagnation, the discomfort of learning or the discomfort of staying small. Most people choose the familiar discomfort without realizing it. It feels safer because it is known, but it costs more over time. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now, let's continue. When you begin to use discomfort as a compass, decision-making becomes simpler. Instead of waiting to feel ready, you look for the edge of your current ability. You step slightly beyond it, not recklessly but intentionally. This edge is where learning happens. Too far beyond it and you are overwhelmed. Too far inside it and you are bored. Improvement lives in the narrow band where effort is required and failure is possible. Athletes call this the training zone. Musicians call it deliberate practice. Professionals call it stretching. The name does not matter. The principle is the same. Seek the discomfort that demands focus and adaptation. This also requires honesty. Not all discomfort is productive. Some discomfort is a signal of misalignment, burnout, or harm. But productive discomfort has a distinct texture. It feels challenging but meaningful, draining but purposeful, difficult but clean. You know it when you feel it. It sharpens attention. It asks something of you. It does not numb you. It engages you. Unproductive discomfort, on the other hand, feels chaotic. It erodes clarity. It disconnects you from purpose. Learning to distinguish the two is part of maturity. Improvement without readiness demands this discernment. You are not blindly chasing pain. You are following signals. There is also courage required to sit with discomfort without immediately trying to escape it. Modern life offers endless exits, distraction, entertainment, busyness. These soothe discomfort but also block growth. The ability to stay present with difficulty is a competitive advantage. It allows you to learn faster, adapt quicker, and recover stronger. It keeps you from quitting prematurely. When discomfort arises, the instinct is to ask how to make it go away. A better question is how to move through it. Often, the answer is continued action. Discomfort tends to diminish with repetition. The first exposure is the loudest. Each subsequent exposure is quieter. This is not because the task becomes easy, but because you become capable. This is how resilience is built, not through dramatic breakthroughs, but through repeated contact with challenge. As you improve, your tolerance expands. What once felt unbearable becomes routine. New levels of discomfort appear. This is not failure, it is progression. The compass keeps moving. People who stop improving often misinterpret this. They reach a new level, feel uncomfortable again, and assume something is wrong. In reality, they have arrived at the next threshold. The goal is not to eliminate discomfort. The goal is to become fluent in it. There is also humility in this process. Discomfort reminds you that growth is ongoing, that mastery is layered, that readiness is not a destination. Those who improve consistently do not wait for the feeling of readiness to return. They trust the compass. They move toward the signal. Over time, this changes your relationship with fear. Fear no longer dictates direction. It becomes information. You notice it, acknowledge it, and proceed anyway. This is not bravado, it is calibration. You learn that discomfort does not last forever. That effort compounds. That capability is built, not discovered. Eventually, you begin to recognize a powerful pattern. The things you once avoided are now the things that built you. The moments you almost quit are the moments that expanded you. The discomfort you leaned into became the foundation of your confidence. Improvement without readiness is not reckless, it is responsive. It listens closely to discomfort without obeying it blindly. As you move forward, notice where your discomfort gathers. Notice what tasks you delay. Notice what conversations you avoid. Notice what skills intimidate you. These are not obstacles, they are coordinates. Follow them carefully, step by step, without waiting to feel ready. And as you do, ask yourself what kind of growth becomes possible when discomfort stops being a stop sign and starts becoming a guide. What changes when you trust the signal more than the sensation? What kind of person is shaped by choosing expansion over escape again and again? Chapter 4. The discipline of beginning is underrated. The moment you start something, you set a chain reaction in motion. Yet most people overcomplicate the first step. They wait for perfect timing, perfect preparation, perfect alignment of circumstances. They mistake hesitation for strategy and delay for discipline. But true discipline is revealed not in perfect execution, but in the courage to begin. The first step is deceptively powerful. It signals intent. It shifts momentum. It tells your mind that procrastination no longer governs your choices. Beginning does not need to be flawless. It only needs to be deliberate. Each small act of initiation accumulates, like drops filling a reservoir. One drop alone does not seem to matter, but over time it defines capacity. Consider the writer staring at a blank page. The instinct is to wait for inspiration, to hope for readiness. The disciplined writer writes a word, then another, then a sentence, and the blank page becomes a landscape of possibility. The action itself invites clarity. The process itself teaches. Waiting for readiness guarantees the page stays blank. Beginning also changes perception. Action creates feedback that thinking alone cannot produce. You discover limitations you did not know existed. You identify solutions you would never have imagined. You test assumptions in the most concrete way possible, through reality. Planning can be infinite, but execution is finite. The first step is finite, and finite steps matter. There is a paradox in beginning. It is both the hardest and the simplest act. The hardest because it forces confrontation with fear, uncertainty, and imperfection. The simplest because it does not require anything more than the decision to act. Waiting, in contrast, feels safe but is infinitely complex. It asks you to navigate your own excuses, your own doubts, your own imagination. The first step cuts through that tangle. Action breeds identity. The person who begins is the person who does. Repetition cements that identity. Identity, once shaped, drives behavior automatically. Those who wait for readiness remain spectators. Those who begin become participants. This is the essence of self-transformation. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now, let's continue. Beginning also cultivates resilience. Each time you start without readiness, you discover that discomfort is temporary, mistakes are surmountable, and effort is actionable. The nervous system adapts, the mind recalibrates, and fear loses its power. The next beginning becomes easier because your history of action rewires expectation. Courage compounds with experience. You do not need full preparation. You do not need perfect knowledge. You do not need a clear vision of the outcome. What you need is the willingness to engage. Willingness is a muscle. It strengthens each time you choose action over hesitation. Consider someone who wants to improve fitness but feels unready. The disciplined approach is not to wait for the perfect plan or perfect day. It is to step onto the floor, lift a weight, move a limb. That small, imperfect action signals commitment. It teaches the body, trains the nervous system, and begins the process of transformation. The first session is never enough to reach mastery, but it is enough to start the trajectory. Beginning also fosters courage in unexpected ways. Fear thrives on anticipation. The more you delay, the larger fear grows. Each moment spent waiting allows the imagination to exaggerate consequences. Action shrinks fear by replacing imagination with evidence. You learn that outcomes are manageable, that mistakes are instructive, that growth is inevitable when you engage. Begin without ego. The desire to appear capable, confident, or skilled is irrelevant at the start. True skill is forged in imperfection. Those who hesitate often imagine judgment that will never come, while those who begin encounter reality and adjust. The ego is quieted by engagement, not by avoidance. Beginning also invites momentum. Action creates movement, and movement attracts further action. One small step generates another. A rhythm forms. Habits are born. Discipline consolidates. Readiness arrives as a consequence, not a requirement. The discipline of beginning is a form of self-trust. It is a declaration that you are willing to engage with life on its terms, not only when you feel equipped. Trust is built in moments of action, especially when fear tempts withdrawal. Each beginning reinforces that you can rely on yourself to move forward regardless of circumstance. There is liberation in starting. It removes the weight of indecision. It transforms anxiety into curiosity. It converts hesitation into experiment. Every beginning is an investment in capability. Every initiation reduces resistance to the next. Ask yourself now, what have you been waiting to feel ready for? What small, deliberate action could you take immediately that signals intent and begins momentum? How would your life change if you started today without waiting for certainty, perfection, or courage? The act of beginning alone can answer these questions. It can reveal paths, insights, and capacities you have been avoiding. Discipline is not built in readiness. It is built in the act of starting. Start now, imperfectly, unready, and watch as each beginning compounds into the person you are becoming. Chapter 5. The power of incremental progress. Improvement is rarely a thunderclap. It does not announce itself with dramatic leaps or sudden transformations. It is quiet, subtle, almost invisible at first, yet it is relentless. The people who consistently grow without waiting to feel ready understand one fundamental principle. Progress is a series of small, deliberate steps taken over time. Each step is evidence. Each repetition is a vote for capability. Each minor win compounds into something unstoppable. The mind exaggerates gaps. It looks at the mountain and sees the entire ascent and the distance paralyses. But mountains are climbed one step at a time. You do not need to see the peak to begin. You only need to place your foot forward consistently in alignment with the path. Small improvements taken repeatedly overwhelm the mind's fixation on the impossible. Incremental progress is deceptively simple. Brush aside the desire for dramatic results. Ignore the culture that glorifies overnight transformations. True growth accumulates in the invisible minutes, the repeated exercises, the daily choices that are easily overlooked. Over time, those choices become your identity. Consider a pianist. No one begins a career by performing flawlessly at Carnegie Hall. The journey starts with scales, with repetition, with hands learning coordination, with mistakes embraced and corrected. Each session seems minor, each repetition seems trivial, but after years of accumulation, mastery emerges. The difference is not magic. It is persistence compounded through incremental progress. Incremental progress is not glamorous. It is uncomfortable. It asks patience. It asks attention to detail. It asks faith that small acts matter more than immediate recognition. Most people abandon improvement because the results are slow. They mistake the pace of growth for the absence of growth. But progress is not linear. It is cumulative. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Leave a comment with your biggest takeaway and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now let's continue. The power of small steps is that they reduce fear. Large actions feel intimidating, but when broken into manageable increments, even monumental goals become achievable. The first repetition, the first attempt, the first minute of focus, the first phone call, the first paragraph, all of these are accessible. They start the momentum that grows into accomplishment. Incremental progress also creates feedback. Each small step provides information that helps refine strategy, correct mistakes, and build confidence. Action without reflection risks repeating error. Reflection without action produces stagnation. Step, observe, adjust, and continue. The compounding effect of small iterations is how skill, strength, and character expand simultaneously. Discipline is woven through incremental progress. Showing up every day, even when enthusiasm wanes, builds resilience. Each repetition is proof that commitment does not depend on motivation. You do not need readiness to act consistently. You need consistency to create readiness, to generate skill, to reinforce identity. Consider someone transforming their physical fitness. The difference between a long-term success and a failed attempt is rarely about intensity or knowledge. It is about repetition, consistency, and incremental adaptation. Push-ups added daily, slightly heavier lifts, faster sprints, cleaner movements, these small gains compound. After months, the transformation is unmistakable. No single day is decisive. The accumulation is decisive. Incremental progress also diminishes fear of failure. When you focus on manageable, repeatable actions, you create a process where mistakes are expected, normalized, and instructive. Failure becomes data rather than judgment. Each misstep is a lesson, not a verdict. Fear loses its authority when action is habitual. Improvement is a tension between what you can tolerate now and what you can tolerate tomorrow. Incremental progress expands that tolerance gradually. By exposing yourself to challenges just beyond your current capacity, your boundaries extend naturally. Growth becomes inevitable because it is baked into the practice, not dependent on luck, talent, or temporary readiness. The compounding nature of small steps is deceptive. Results are invisible at first. Patience is required. People often abandon practices too early, mistaking slow accumulation for ineffectiveness. But the truth is that small steps, repeated without fail, eventually reach critical mass. They snowball. They become unstoppable. Think of learning a language. Mastery is not achieved in a week or a month. It is the product of daily vocabulary, repeated conversation, listening, and reading. Each day, tiny progress occurs. Over time, the cumulative effect is fluency. The same principle applies to any skill, habit, or area of life. Incremental steps create exponential results. Incremental progress also teaches humility and resilience. It reminds you that no one is perfect at the start, and no one improves without persistence. There is dignity in showing up, in performing small acts repeatedly, in tolerating imperfection in pursuit of growth. That dignity compounds as surely as skill does. Another benefit of incremental progress is momentum. Each completed action fuels the next. Each small success reinforces confidence. Each step forward proves capability. Momentum makes larger challenges feel achievable. Without it, even minor obstacles seem insurmountable. By focusing on small, deliberate progress, you remove the excuse of unpreparedness. You do not wait for perfect conditions. You do not wait for overwhelming confidence. You start with what is available and scale incrementally. Readiness becomes a product of repetition, not a prerequisite for action. Ask yourself now, what small action could you take today that moves you closer to your goal? How could you break a daunting challenge into steps that can be completed consistently? How would your life change if each day contributed to measurable growth, however modest it feels? Improvement without waiting for readiness relies on recognizing that small, repeated actions are the engine of transformation. The accumulation of effort, patience, and disciplined repetition is unstoppable. The moment you embrace incremental progress, you shift from hoping for change to creating it. Chapter 6. Mastering momentum. Momentum is the hidden engine of all progress. It is what separates those who improve consistently from those who talk about improving endlessly. Momentum does not require readiness, confidence, or perfect conditions. It requires action, repeated action, and the deliberate harnessing of forward motion. Without momentum, effort dissipates. With it, even small steps gain force, snowballing into significant transformation. Momentum begins with initiation. The first act of movement, no matter how small, produces energy. That energy can be built upon or squandered. Every time you act, you generate a signal that your mind and body respond to. Each signal reduces friction for the next act. Movement creates expectation. Once expectation exists, the barrier to action is lower. This is the principle of compounding motion. Most people sabotage momentum by waiting for readiness or perfect alignment. They believe action must be calculated and flawless, but momentum thrives on imperfect, repeated effort. The first step might be clumsy. Second step might be hesitant. The third step might feel meaningless. Yet each step adds to the chain of movement. After a few repetitions, the inertia builds. Action becomes easier. Focus sharpens. Confidence grows quietly in the background. Momentum also creates feedback loops. The act of moving forward generates data. You learn what works, what fails, and what requires adjustment. Knowledge alone does not produce momentum. Knowledge must meet execution. Action teaches faster than reflection. Momentum is fueled by doing. Consider someone learning to run. The first mile is grueling. The body protests. The mind argues for retreat. But the moment they complete it, the nervous system records the achievement. The second mile feels more possible because the body remembers success. The third mile feels easier because momentum has begun to carry them. Movement becomes its own ally. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Leave a comment with your biggest takeaway and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now let's continue. Momentum is also psychological. Each completed task sends a signal to the mind that you are capable. Small wins reinforce identity. They tell you, I am someone who moves. I am someone who acts. I am someone who finishes what I start. Momentum is the accumulation of these wins, and identity grows alongside it. Once identity begins to align with action, resistance diminishes. Momentum becomes self-reinforcing, but momentum is fragile if neglected. Long pauses, inconsistent effort, or waiting for readiness erode it quickly. One day of hesitation can undo the energy built over weeks. Momentum requires attention. It is not a force you summon once and then forget. It is a current you feed continuously through action. This is why small, consistent actions matter more than sporadic bursts. Momentum is not about intensity. It is about continuity. The daily steps, repeated over time, produce unstoppable force. Large, sporadic efforts are impressive in isolation but fleeting in their impact. The key is to create a rhythm of forward motion. Momentum also reduces fear. Each act of movement diminishes anxiety about the next. Fear thrives on inertia. When you remain still, doubt multiplies. When you act repeatedly, fear is tested, measured, and minimized. Momentum silences hesitation by proving over and over that action is survivable, manageable, and productive. Consider a leader taking on a new responsibility. The first decision is tentative. The first challenge is daunting. But as each choice is made, each task completed, each problem solved, momentum grows. The leader becomes more decisive, more confident, more capable, not because readiness suddenly appeared, but because action generated a current that carried them forward. Momentum also interacts with opportunity. The person in motion encounters doors that remain closed to the stationary. Ideas, connections, resources, and possibilities reveal themselves to those who are already moving. Stillness, in contrast, is invisible. Waiting for readiness delays access to these openings. The discipline required to maintain momentum is deceptively simple. Show up, act, and repeat. Resist the urge to pause until perfect conditions arrive. Focus on what is within your control. Act consistently. Trust that repetition, however imperfect, produces energy that grows with time. Momentum compounds not just action, but learning. Each repeated step refines technique, strengthens judgment, and clarifies priorities. The person who moves continuously becomes sharper, faster, and more adaptable. Their progress accelerates as motion builds upon itself. The lag between action and results shrinks, and the process becomes self-sustaining. Ask yourself now, what current of momentum could you generate today with a single, deliberate action? What would happen if you committed to moving forward daily without waiting to feel ready? How would your confidence, skill, and resilience change if momentum carried you, step by step, toward your goals? Mastering momentum is mastering life itself. It is the principle that allows improvement to continue even when motivation fades, fear arises, or readiness is absent. When you act consistently, when you respect the power of cumulative movement, when you allow motion to reinforce itself, you enter a state where growth becomes inevitable. Momentum is your ally, your engine, your proof that readiness is optional but action is essential. Chapter 7. Unleashing your potential. Everything we have explored. Acting before confidence, leaning into discomfort, beginning without hesitation, embracing incremental progress, mastering momentum, leads to one undeniable truth: your potential is not discovered. It is built. It is cultivated through action, repetition, and the refusal to wait for readiness. The person you want to become is waiting, not as a distant ideal, but as a result of the steps you are willing to take today. Potential is not something hidden inside you, like a secret treasure that reveals itself when conditions are perfect. It is a living system that responds to engagement. Each choice to act, each repetition, each moment of disciplined discomfort feeds it. Potential expands as you challenge it. It contracts when you avoid it. The difference between who you are now and who you could be tomorrow is entirely a function of what you choose to do, starting immediately. Consider the most accomplished people you admire. Rarely were they fully prepared at the start. Rarely did they feel ready for the challenges ahead. They were ordinary people who made extraordinary commitments to act when fear, doubt, and hesitation were present. They embraced discomfort, honored incremental progress, and relied on momentum to carry them through uncertainty. Their results were inevitable, not miraculous, because action was constant and deliberate. Improvement without readiness is not reckless. It is a form of strategic courage. You are choosing to move while unprepared, knowing that mastery, clarity, and confidence emerge through engagement, not anticipation. You are committing to yourself and to your growth. Each imperfect attempt, each small success, each moment you resist retreat builds a foundation that no fear, doubt, or external obstacle can easily erode. If this audiobook is bringing you value so far, take a moment to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and subscribe to Prime Audiobooks for more content like this. Now let's continue. Reflection is critical here. Pause and ask yourself, how many opportunities have you delayed because you were waiting to feel ready? How often have you allowed fear, perfectionism, or discomfort to dictate your next move? How might your life change if you committed to moving forward, one deliberate action at a time, without waiting for internal approval? Your potential is inseparable from your willingness to act. Each choice you make to step forward, to start, to persist, and to endure discomfort is a declaration that you are not limited by your current state. Action compounds. Small steps lead to profound transformation. Momentum builds on itself. Identity shifts, not because of thought or intention alone, but because of repeated demonstration of capability. Improvement is not a gift. It is not handed to the patient or the talented. It is claimed by the persistent, the deliberate, the brave. It is claimed by those who are willing to act before they feel ready, who learn through doing, who trust that clarity, skill, and confidence will follow movement. Every chapter you have absorbed is a tool. The myth of readiness, action before confidence, discomfort as a compass, the discipline of beginning, incremental progress, and momentum. These principles are not abstract concepts. They are practical levers. Apply them repeatedly in your daily life. Use them to push forward when hesitation rises. Use them to keep moving when fear insists you stop. Use them to transform potential into reality. Ask yourself now, what is one action, however small, that you can take immediately to honor your potential? What discomfort are you willing to embrace as a signal that growth is waiting? How will you leverage momentum, incremental progress, and discipline to ensure that each day moves you closer to the person you are capable of becoming? This is your call to action. Stop waiting to feel ready. Begin now. Step forward into discomfort. Commit to repetition. Build momentum. Claim your potential. The person you will become is forged by the choices you make today, not by the confidence you hope to feel tomorrow. Move, persist, act, and in that motion you will become unstoppable.